So yeah, I guess we all have our characters. Oh god, don't get me on Alyssa. It's very fair to dislike characters and like characters. It's just that I feel like certain characters often get really misunderstood. And I think Bryan is one of them. Hwoarang is also one of them. Pick up the character yourself and you'll understand what makes him tick, what situations he wants to be in. And then you'll figure out how to defend properly against that stuff. What's up guys, TheMainManSWE here, hoping you're all doing awesome as always, and today I'm gonna talk a little bit about that guy, Bryan Fury. He's one of my favorite characters, just got him to Supreme, it was unbelievably difficult, it's the hardest rank up I've done so far in Tekken 8. Jesus, I worked hard, but I'm very proud I did it, really like Bryan. Kazuya and Heihachi are my mains, but he would be my third main. And I just got a question here in chat. I feel like I need to touch upon this subject because I get it 60 times per day, I shit you not. People are very interested in Bryan, people have a lot of opinions on Bryan, so I just wanted to clear a few things up. So someone in the chat said, sorry, outside of difficulty, what do you think of Bryan's balancing position? Like, does he need nerfs or so? As Arslan said, he might be a problem. Those of you who have seen the Tekken Reddit, lately there has been about a post per day regarding Bryan and how awful he is. It's typically a very negative opinion. I don't visit Tekken Reddit that frequently, but I checked it out for last week or so almost daily. And daily there was a thread about, I hate Bryan. Oh my god, I can't stand Bryan! And every time it has like 300 responses, everyone thumbing up, yeah, what a toxic piece of shit character. Fucking hate Bryan. I've never really seen anything like this on any other character. Even a character like Yoshi, Alyssa, Kuma, Lei, I mean, never really seen anything like this, so a lot of people seem to really dislike Bryan. And Arslan also tweeted a few days ago saying, okay guys, as soon as they've nerfed Yoshi, Nina, Jin, and Dragunov, he's going to be the next big thing. So basically he's saying like, well, as soon as you nerf the top 4, Bryan is going to be next. I don't know if he means Bryan is top 5 through saying that. So I'm going to touch a little bit upon all of this, but to get to the original question guy in chat, I made a tier list only a month ago. I believe I put Bryan around top 10, or slightly outside of top 10. I think that still holds true. I can definitely see him getting some nerfs. For example, Requiem here is too heavy a button in the neutral. If someone steps to the right, Requiem should never track them, in my opinion. Right now you can step it to the right, but you gotta time it pretty perfectly. But even then, like if you block this, Bryan is -9, and then he doesn't have the best poking in the world, he doesn't have the best punishment in the world, he doesn't really have panic buttons to open you up if you refuse to duck. It's a bit risky for Bryan. He's a bit similar to Lee in this regard. It's just that Lee doubles down on defensive utility, and Bryan certainly doesn't. He doubles down more on, let's just say, interesting offense. So, I could definitely see a toning down of Requiem. I think Incinerator should not track. With every hit, he realigns a ton. I think that's very excessive on a string that has insane frames. -2, -3, and in the open, I end this, -10, but with huge pushback. You'll only punish that at the wall. So this string has a little bit too many things going for it. And then core circle back 1. I think +5 is very generous. That is very generous. You could tone this down to at least -3. Even if it was +2, it would still be great. So I think that might be excessive. That's where I feel Bryan is at balancing-wise. He's like top 10. As Arslan says, he's going to be the next big thing once you nerf those characters. And I'm like, no. You'll see Victor. You'll see Shaheen. My god, will you see Shaheen. And I think this guy is not mentioned enough. Claudio. These two are perfect tournament characters, Claudio and Shaheen. They're super easy, and they're super strong. So when Arslan says Bryan is the next big thing, I'm like, where is this coming from? If he's so OP, why is Nee the only one fucking bothering with this character? And why does Nee bother with this character? Because Bryan is basically Nee's child, and he's been playing Nee for 25 years. Why is no one else bothering with this obviously broken OP character? And even if what Arslan says happens, which I hope happens for Season 2, we see significant nerfs on Dragunov, Jin, Nina Yoshi, Bryan is not going to be the next big thing. He's way too difficult to pilot. Those types of characters are not popular to tournament players because it's stressful enough playing at a tournament. You don't need to worry about this level of execution and mind games as well. So I just don't see that holding true at all. And then I just want to touch upon, this, a lot of intermediate players, can't stand Bryan. They feel like they're getting counter hit for 1,000,000 damage. Yeah, that's the whole point of the character. He counter hits you, and then he does some of the highest damage in the game. That has like always been Bryan though. Like Tekken 7, this was a counter hit launcher. Did 70%. This was his highest damage counter hit launcher. Northern Cross, this was a counter hit launcher. That was actually a pretty good panic button. Like you do boop, boop, counter hit launch. And of course, Magic 4 counter hit launcher, but that was the entire roster in Tekken 7. And I'm so sorry, this is my opinion. He's one of the most honest matchups you can ever go against in Tekken. It's like, if you press into him, he punishes you. In a similar way, Lee will do the exact same thing. If you press into me, I kill you, right? And just like Bryan, I can pressure you like this with plus frames that counter at launch. But the character evolves a lot on the opponent being careless with their offense. And then I can say things like, well, how many people bother with him in tournaments? I myself have struggled a lot with the character. He was my hardest Supreme, but then you can say, well, that's because you're so bad at Tekken, blah, 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 blah. And then I can say he has like bottom 10, bottom 9, bottom 8 win-loss ratio online. And what I like to say as well is that if you think Bryan is brain dead cheap, I would just urge you to try and play the character yourself. This is an experiment I've run in Tekken 7 a lot. I try to play all the characters, and in Tekken 8 I try and play a lot of characters. You have an opinion on a character you've never played. It's better to try and experience that yourself, and it will also help you out in playing against Bryan if you understand a little bit what makes him tick. It's a very, very productive way of going about things in this game if you're that serious about it. Pick up the character yourself and you'll understand what makes him tick, what situations he wants to be in, and then you'll figure out how to defend properly against that stuff. But the real eye-opener, I think, will be that you'll understand that it's not as easy as you think. But Bryan players tend to not mash like idiots, but rather they try to observe a little bit what you do. Then they see your timing, your patterns, and then they blow you up. I get that a lot of people get upset with the character, but I just think it just has to be said that he's certainly far from easy. What happens if you play passively against a Bryan? Do they struggle? For example, he's at the top of my win-loss ratio. I destroy Bryan players. It's not only Bryan, there are quite a few characters that operate in a similar way. Bryan wants you to press into him. Asuka wants you to press into her. Paul wants you to press into him. Lee wants you to press into him. With these characters, if you just fall back a little bit and block, which we have to be real here, a lot of people don't block enough. I play against a lot of Fujins when I do my player matches, and sometimes when I play ranked, I get matched with a Fujin, and you guys press way too much in blue ranks. You're not bad players. You're strong Tekken players. It's just that you haven't realized the value of just falling back a little bit. And while you have the best flowcharts at those ranks, again, you're good players. You have the best flowcharts, you have the best setups. It's just that you never ever breathe a little bit. You always go like this, go through the motions, and you overextend. And you overextend, and you get punished. And you get punished. And you get punished. That's the difference between like high level and being at Fujin. It's that a good player will know to fall back a little bit. That's how you beat characters like Bryan or Lee. Just wait. And you're very careful about when you press. And again, as I said in my Bryan video, like, you just refuse to duck. You'll frustrate the Bryan because he'll only do this. They'll do a Requiem -9. You take your turn. When they get flustered, they'll start throwing stuff like this. And that's where you have to realize with Hatchet, it's a mind game. This move is very risky for the Bryan player because it does not knock you down. You do not get knocked down. It's not a vortex style low. If he wants to add damage to you with lows, he has to commit to multiple hatchets. That's very risky for the Bryan player. I also think a lot of people dislike Bryan because sheer damage output. He's very popular. We have a tendency to dislike characters we play against every day. I think that also factors in. Yes, he +5. Yeah, he is +5, but the next hatchet will come out at 21+ frames. It's more realistic to say the next one comes at 22, 23 frames. I often squeeze in a Kazuya down for 2 in between here. Or most people hop kick. Just hop kick or down for 2. You can sidewalk left if you want to beat the next hatchet. You can like or dislike any character. I mean, you paid $80 for this game. Do whatever you want. I just wanted to get some counterpoints out there in that, I mean, most people know this. I respect Bryan tremendously. I think he's one of the greatest characters. I think he's very well designed. I think his game plan is very interesting, and I respect the time and effort people put into the character. But yeah, if you want to hear about characters I dislike, Eddie, I can't stand him in Tekken 8. These two are the ones I dislike the most right now. I just can't stand these two characters. Just rushing into my face. You know how everyone was upset about Stan's rushdown when we saw Yachi's trailer? That's what these two do, and I hate it. And it feels very mindless, and I can't even be bothered to lab them because I just so disapprove of their very existence. I'm gonna keep this pretty short, but it's like Eddie in this game, he just starts flailing, and I can't make out what's what. As soon as he goes into Negativa, relax, and he starts doing his strings, I don't know what's what. It all looks the fucking same to me. Whereas in Tekken 7, he did his capoeira from relax, but the moves were completely distinguishable from one another. I could actually see, oh, that's 4, that's 3, 3. Oh, that's into a handstand. But the way they've animated Tekken 8, Eddie, I'm just like, everything looks like the same kick, and I'm just sitting there like, what the fuck is this? It's just a tornado of shit. And I'm like, even when I'm trying to learn, I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I'm just sitting there like, I just want Tekken 7 Eddie back. I liked that character. New Eddie, I'm just like, yeah. So, yeah, I guess we all have our characters. Oh, God, don't get me on Alisa. It's very fair to dislike characters and like characters. It's just that I feel like certain characters often get really misunderstood, and I think Bryan is one of them. Hwoarang is also one of them. Hwoarang is also one of those characters where in Tekken 7 I was like, what a brain dead piece of shit. But then I played him and I was like, fuck, this is actually difficult. When you play against high level players with Hwoarang, like, that offense is just not as easy as you think. But in beginner and intermediate, it's super easy. And another interesting character is actually Paul. Also, when you play him in like beginner and intermediate, like, wow, like, remember my 90 win streak? But as soon as you go into high level, like, you fucking struggle and you feel how lackluster he is in Tekken 8. Problems with tracking, problems with poking, problems with mix-ups. It's like, it's just different, you know, between the levels of play. But yeah, I just wanted to make this video because there seems to be so much emotions and opinions on Bryan. And I guess I'm in the minority. I feel like I'm the only one defending this character. Everyone else just thinks he's a gigantic piece of shit. But I personally feel it's very undeserved. And yeah, but I wanted to get a few words out there. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.